In the vast theater of ancient history, few names resound with both mystery and military prestige like that of the Hittites. Rising from the rocky plateaus of Anatolia, they built an empire that would stand shoulder to shoulder with Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon. But unlike those civilizations whose stories have been told endlessly, the Hittites often remain hidden in the shadows of time. Today, we march with their legions, hear the clash of their chariots, and relive their greatest battles. This is not just history, it is the resurrection of a forgotten war machine, a people who fought, conquered, and signed the very first peace treaty in human history. And before we set foot on the blood-soaked fields of Kadesh or the towering walls of Hattusa, don't forget to subscribe. And join us because here we uncover the forgotten empires, the soldiers, and the battles that shaped the ancient world. The roots of the Hittites stretch back to the 17th century BC, when a chieftain named Hattusili the first carved out a kingdom from the warring city-states of central Anatolia. Trevor Bryce, in his monumental The Kingdom of the Hittites, notes that Hattusili was both ruthless and visionary. From his fortress capital of Hattusa, he began expanding southward, striking fear into the rival states of Syria and Mesopotamia. His campaigns laid the foundations for a military tradition that emphasized not sheer numbers, but tactical brilliance, psychological dominance, and above all, the power of the chariot. Unlike Egyptian or Mesopotamian designs, Hittite chariots were larger, heavier, and carried 3 warriors: a driver, a shield-bearer, and a spearman. This innovation created shock troops capable of crashing into enemy lines with devastating effect. The Hittite war machine was not just about brute force, it was a fusion of military engineering and political cunning. Their kings mastered the art of siege warfare, constructing massive battering rams, scaling ladders, and deploying disciplined infantry alongside their famous chariots. Hattusili I, for instance, led a daring campaign into northern Syria, where he attacked the fortified city of Aleppo. Though he failed to permanently subdue the region, his campaigns demonstrated the Hittites' ability to project power far beyond their Anatolian heartland. By the time his successors took the throne, the Hittites were no longer a minor kingdom but a rising power on the international stage. But no ruler embodied Hittite military might more than Superpower I. Kari Beckman describes him as a commander of unrelenting ambition, whose strategies shattered the balance of power in the Near East. Superpower launched relentless campaigns against the Mitanni Empire, a formidable Hurrian kingdom that had long controlled northern Mesopotamia and Syria. His victories were swift and brutal. City after city fell under Hittite control as he dismantled Mitanni influence. By employing both overwhelming force and strategic diplomacy upon turning local rulers into vassals, Superpower transformed the Hittites into the dominant power of the Late Bronze Age. One of Superpower's most daring feats came when he marched his armies deep into Syria, capturing the wealthy city of Carchemish. This conquest secured control over crucial trade routes and placed the Hittites directly on the border with Egypt's sphere of influence. The clash between these two superpowers was inevitable. Egyptian pharaohs like Amenhotep III and Akhenaten watched nervously as Hittite banners appeared along the Orontes River. Superpower's victories, the Egyptian royal house itself. In an extraordinary episode recorded in the Amarna letters, an Egyptian queen, widowed and desperate, wrote to Superpower asking him to send one of his sons to marry her and rule Egypt alongside her. The plan ended in disaster. The prince was assassinated before reaching Egypt. But the story underscores just how powerful the Hittites had become under Superpower's reign. The golden age of Hittite warfare reached its climax under Mu'attali II, whose reign brought the empire into direct confrontation with the pharaoh Ramesses II of Egypt. Their battleground was the city of Kadesh in 1274 BC, one of the most famous battles of the ancient world. Kenneth Kitchen, in Pharaoh Triumphant, describes Kadesh as a chariot war of unprecedented scale. The numbers were staggering. Up to 20,000 infantry and 5,000 chariots clashed on the plains. The Hittites, masters of deception, lured Ramesses into a trap, ambushing his forces with waves of heavy chariots. For a moment, It seemed the Egyptian army would be annihilated. Rameses himself claimed divine intervention saved him, rallying his troops to hold the line. But the truth is far more complex. Most modern historians agree the battle ended in a stalemate, with neither side able to claim total victory. Yet the fact that the Hittites stood toe-to-toe with the mighty Egyptians and walked away, unbroken, cemented their place as a superpower of the ancient world. What makes Kadesh even more extraordinary is what followed. After years of continued conflict, the Hittites and Egyptians signed the world's first known peace treaty, etched into stone and preserved in both hieroglyphs and cuneiform. This treaty, negotiated between Ramesses II and the Hittite king Hattusili III, not only ended hostilities, but also established a military alliance against common enemies. It is a testament to the Hittites' political genius, for they secured peace with their greatest rival and turned their attention to other fronts, ensuring their survival for another century. The power of the Hittite legions was not limited to open battle. They were masters of siegecraft, capable of tearing down city walls with relentless persistence. Their engineers developed rams and scaling towers that allowed them to overwhelm fortified positions across Anatolia and Syria. Their armies were disciplined, well-supplied, and organized into specialized units, and their charioteers, elite warriors drawn from the nobility, formed the spearhead of every major campaign. To stand before a charging line of Hittite chariots was to face the very embodiment of terror in the Bronze Age. Yet, as with all empires, glory came at a cost. By the 13th century BC, the Hittite Empire faced mounting challenges: famine, internal rebellions, and the mysterious invasions of the so-called sea. Peoples tested their resilience. Their enemies grew bolder, their vassals restless. Even their once impregnable capital of Hattusa, with its towering walls and lion gates, eventually fell. Trevor Bryce notes that by the end of the Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BC, the Hittite Empire vanished almost overnight, leaving only fragments of their once mighty kingdom in cities like The legions of Hattusa were no more, but their legacy endured in the annals of warfare. And that legacy is profound. The Hittites gave the world its first recorded treaty, pioneered chariot warfare on a massive scale, and stood as equals among the great civilizations of their time. Their warriors carved history, not with ink but with iron, their battles shaping the destiny of the ancient Near East. They were a people who rose from obscurity to dominate a world of giants, and though they fell into silence, their echoes still thundered across the millennia. Today, when we think of great military civilizations, Egypt, Greece, and Rome often take center stage. But the story of the Hittites reminds us that history is written not only by the victors, but also by those whose power once rivaled them. Even if time sought to erase their name, the legions of Hattusa deserve to be remembered not just as a footnote, but as one of the fiercest military powers of the ancient world. So as the dust of ages settles over Anatolia, and the ruins of Hattusa stand silent against the winds, remember this. Once a people forged an empire with blood and fire, drove their chariots across the Near East, and signed the first peace treaty mankind had ever known. That is the true legacy of the Hittites. And if you love exploring the rise and fall of forgotten empires, make sure to subscribe, because this channel is where history comes alive one battle at a time.